In part one, we looked at how you can execute the main query and query users and computers within your grid. What I'd like to talk about now is this data tab. What we can do from here is just like the top right quadrant, we can execute selected queries. We can also do the same thing here. What we've done here is we've configured a query which will execute and show us all of the different advertisements that we have made available in our SCCM server. From this particular grid, we can right click and actually click a secondary menu here and actually fire off yet another query. As you can see, it just processed. And this is now showing us the advertisements for January 2009 hotfixes, which ones failed, which ones succeeded, etc. So we can use the same filtering technology to quickly find, okay, show me all the desktops that failed their delivery advertisement. And boom, now we know exactly which ones failed. Now, of course, from here, we could start trying to troubleshoot the issue, or maybe you have to also send off a report to show which machines failed. So I just Control A, right click, copy, and what I can do is actually bring up Excel and just paste in the results, and you can see that it's actually copied in the column names that we've defined for our query, as well as the data, and put it right into Excel. So we can now take this information and send it off to the powers that be to show them, oops, this is how many failures we had for this particular delivery. Now, of course, we can also take this information and copy it in and execute our main query again and get back some different results and some different menus. So you notice when I right click on this particular data cell here, we've got a number of different menus that we've configured. For example, if I right click and select ping, you can see that it's actually pinging the computer name for that particular computer. I can also right click on the IP address, and you'll notice that instead of pinging the name, it's actually pinging the IP address. This can be important because sometimes the computer name and the IP address don't always gel with what's actually happening in the real world. Let's look at some of these other tools in here. You can see that we've actually put in some common support utilities. For example, Event Viewer. If we want to go in and look at some system or application errors, number one source of troubleshooting, in my opinion, always Event Viewer. You can even launch computer management, or you could launch remote desktop or remote assistance if you wanted to remote assist to the computer. Actually, no one happens to be logged onto that machine right at the moment. We can do things like resync the system time. And this is just, you can see I'm actually using the sysinternals psexec to execute this command remotely. At the same time, I can PS list or find out what processes happen to be running on the machine right now. You can see that the log on screensaver is on though, so it's telling us basically that the machine is idle. We can look at the C drive or explore the profile of the user, or we can explore Windows. And again, this is just launching applications and taking the information that's already in our grid and passing it through. So we'll talk about actually how to configure these menus in a different video. But for now, notice that we can actually stack these menu items. We can organize them the way that our users would use them. You could create different menu items for different groups. We could look at things like account status, find out if the user's account is enabled, which it is, and when it was created, when does it expire, etc. One of the other features that Maven offers is the ability to turn on some verbose history logging. And what this option will do is essentially keep track of every command that we run against a particular machine. So for example, if I were to run ipconfig on this machine, you can see that it's actually executed the command and recorded it in my status log viewer. So any command that I run will actually be recorded in here. And this is helpful because later on you may be looking up what did you do on that specific day. So for example, I wanted to find something that I did in February, let's say February 15th. So I could open up the status history log viewer, and you can see this brings up a separate window, and I can say show me stuff that happened on the 15th of February, and you can see, oh, I queried D Mason here, and I could right click and apply as filter, and that would actually put that information in my filter. So essentially we have a small audit trail, and this of course is stored in a log file, which you could even keep on a server if you wanted to keep track of exactly which analysts were performing which actions on a specific machine. Now some of these actions, you'll notice if I execute them, actually bring up a secondary prompt. And we'll show you in another video when we talk about configuring menus how to actually cause this little message box to come up to say, are you really sure that you want to do this specific action? Because some actions do take, you want the analyst to make sure they're not just right-clicking and doing it because they may be detrimental to the person that's logged onto the machine.